language-based profiling, every utterance out of your mouth is filtered through one of 6 question concepts: a who, what, when, where, why, and how. These are all behaviors that I can try on and see if they work for me or not. Hopes, dreams, and desires are nothing without behaviors. It's the concepts, and that is 4 columns of information in the 6 questions, and that gives you exactly how that person is processing it in their brain. So let's figure out your big whats. Your big, hairy, audacious goals of what you want to achieve. And what if you took your BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, and put that into your relationship?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Intimacy not almost, can only happen in the present. We have 2 clear ways, probably 3, but 2 clear ways. Number 1,
Just wanted to take a quick minute to tell you how you can get almost $250 worth of free bonuses that will teach you how to improve your desire, how to have more libido, how to get the right tests done to figure out the root causes of low libido from a physical perspective. This is for men and women. And you do this by pre-ordering a copy of my book. My book is coming out in late fall. Projected date is November 1st. And in my book, we're going to talk about all sorts of physical root causes for low libido, how to help pelvic pain, how to help erectile dysfunction, how to help vaginal dryness, how to do this together in your partnerships, and so much more. And when you pre-order a copy, I am giving you almost $250 worth of bonuses right away for your support. So to get that, you simply go to wanttowantit.com or look in the show notes for that direct link. So wanttowantit.com, the name of my book. Now back to our show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode on the Libido Lounge. I'm your host, board-certified sexologist, Dr. Diane Mueller, and I have a special guest with me today. I have with me Blair Dunkley. Blair is going to talk to us a lot about this thing he has developed, which is language-based profiling. We're going to talk about his work on the mind, his work on psychology, his work on communication, his work on understanding your partner, and so much more, and how all of this intertwines with having great and deep intimacy, having great, deep, and wonderful, passionate sex, and so much more. Because so much of this does begin with the way we are interrelating, the way our mind is perceiving things, the stories we tell, and so much more. So that's what we're going to get into today. Welcome to the lounge.
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So this is a new term for a lot of us, right? This language-based profiling. So I want to start there because I know this is something that as part of your lifelong work is putting together this model. So can you tell us a little bit about what this is and why this is important in terms of communication and relationships?
Man, that's huge. Sorry. That's a lot to unpack. That could take me 40 years. So anyway, but I'll try and tighten it up to a few minutes. So the long and the short of it is language-based profiling, every utterance out of your mouth is filtered through one of 6 question concepts: a who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those are the only functional 6 question concepts I've been able to find. Now, if you talk to people in computer research and NLP, natural language processing, they say there's 8. And I beg to differ strongly because their fundamentals, they don't know what the fundamental concepts are that drive a who, what, when, where, why, and how. And I researched that for 6 years. That has a great deal to do with how you perceive your partner, yourself, your intimacy, including your confidence and self-confidence, which are, again, not the same thing. And I figured that out because of language-based profiling.
Okay, so my question here on this is sometimes I've heard people say, and I agree with what I'm about to say in many ways, that life is about the questions we ask ourselves. And so people sometimes ask themselves questions, like an example could be like, why do I look like crap today? Well, if we ask ourselves a question like that, we're going to get a whole list of answers of the brain being like, well, you didn't brush your hair right, yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
Or we
Can I break down this stuff?
Sure. Let me.
Okay, so right there, you went why initially, and you processed that through a true why. It wasn't a disguised question. It wasn't a disguised what. It was a true why, which gives you reasons, only can give you reasons, excuses, rationalizations, and justifications. That's all that a why can do. It's very creative in that. Now, it can also only when you say, why do I look this way? And then you said, because I didn't brush my hair. Well, that simple didn't refers to the past. Whys 100% of the time lock you in your past. You cannot be present, and the only place where change can be is in the present. So you're locked in your past, and all you can do is load emotion first, because whys load emotion before information in your brain. So technically, that's not accurate. If you really want to get nerdy sciencey here, they both load virtually simultaneously, but the amount that your prefrontal cortex, your cognitive domain, actually fires is far less percentage-wise than the area in your limbic system and emotional area. And it's not purely limbic, but I'm going to slur the science on this a little bit. I'm just for time's sake. I don't want to get into details here that most people won't be interested in. But the bottom line here is more of your lizard brain area and emotional center will light up percentage-wise because you're talking in why. And why will drive that more base emotional drivers.
Okay, but my question is, so thank you for that. My question here is that was basically like, okay, well, it's about, say, the questions we ask. So I'm trying to understand this model. So like the second example I was going to give here was like, or I could give myself the question, why I look beautiful today. So that I hear you around, okay, well, why is in the past? Maybe this is more like lizard type of brain. But my curiosity is with like understanding this is like, okay, well, how, like, where is the utility in this from, hey, I have why of, hey, I'm asking myself this question that my brain is going to naturally find answers to. And these answers could be problematic and not helpful to me, or they could be helpful, but in many ways not helpful. Or I could ask myself a different question. Why am I so beautiful today? And then I can have all of these different answers that are probably going to be a lot more positive in nature. Like, is there an element of like within the context of your 6 questions here where it's not just about the questions, it's also about like the way we ask the question that you find important?
That is so, so true. Now, your second why question here is not, do you mind before I actually explain this so I don't lead you into anything? Just tell me the answer to why are you so beautiful today?
Well, I got up and I crimped my hair. I washed my face. I took a great walk. I did my meditation so I could get in the right vibe for the day. We'll leave it at that.
Okay, great. Now, yes, those are past, but how do you view yourself connected to that information in the past, present, or future?
I would say there's an element of past, but also present.
Correct. And which percentage is higher, past or present?
Probably more in the present.
Correct. That means that you're in a what, why language pattern, because the why of it, although you use the word, it was not the main driver. What is the main driver? And as I shared before we got on here, that the whole area, there are 2 fundamental types of emotions we deal with all the time. We deal with why emotions, which is the self-judgment, the self-recrimination. You beat yourself up and you stack all kinds of stuff that was there. But did you notice that the past stuff was generalized and the more present stuff was more specific. I crimped my hair. I did this. I did that. It's all things that you did, but it references the present of where you are now.
That doesn't make sense to me. So can you clarify this for listeners? Because
Please.
when we were talking about like the first why, like why do I not look as good today, or however I framed it, the specific thing I said was I didn't brush my hair, right? And that to me, when I don't understand how it's like specific versus not, because to me that was a specific thing I said.
It is. However, if we had a chance to do a deeper dive, what I would go is, so when you view yourself as unattractive, what are the situations that you see, and how do you frame that in your mind? Most people who see themselves as unattractive will frame it as a generalization that they didn't do their thing and they don't have a ritual to do that. You framed your second situation as though it's nearly a ritual for you to crimp your hair, do everything that you said, and turn that into something that gets you into a state in the present that you can then carry forward for the rest of the day.
Okay, so as we're getting pretty meta here, I want to make sure that we're bringing it down to the practical. So give me an example, like real world, if you would, for our listeners to help understand. So these concepts of like these questions, right? So I hear you in your work, there's these questions, and then they deliver different things, it sounds like, to the conversation. Can you kind of set a little bit of a foundation too for us from a standpoint of your methodology and these questions and how these questions actually help with communication and intimacy, so we understand kind of the purpose here a little bit?
Sure. So let me ask you a question. Where does change happen? Past, present, or future?
Present.
Can you change your past?
You can change your relationship and how you view your past, your memory of your past, those kind of things.
Can you change your future?
You can take actions today that could impact your future.
So both of your answers, your past and your future, are only present things that you can do to impact those. So can you actually change your present?
Well, at first I said like change happens in the present, but then you challenged me, so I thought I got the answer wrong. So did I?
No. Yeah, you got the answer perfectly correctly.
Okay.
But then I went in, and I do challenge people on this, because then they try and fudge it in their brain, trying to make their past adjustable into their present, or have their present influence their future so that that future condition is now, which just messes up their brain. And when we have fantasy in relationships, we're projecting into the future, and sometimes we cannot specify it and find out and communicate exactly how we're feeling in the moment to be able to bring that to the present. So that whole past stuff and whole future stuff gets collapsed into a present moment. And when you have a past future and no ability to describe it, you have some form of frustration or anxiety or fear, or I can't talk about this, or I'm not understood, or something that is reflecting on either the past or the future, but isn't dealt with in the present.
So what you're saying then is then, in context of, say, communication from an intimacy standpoint, part of the problem that you're seeing, and this is me paraphrasing, trying to...
Yes, please go ahead.
So part of the problem is that people are projecting into the past or the future, and they're not staying present in the moment with what's actually happened. Is that
exactly
thing here? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that is a huge part of intimacy. That intimacy not almost, can only happen in the present.
So what about, and I'm going to challenge you now, and I do this
Please.
respectfully.
Please.
What about then the idea of like visualization for future, for like, okay, let's visualize our hopes and dreams and what we're trying to create together. Or even people that like visualize like, hey, we want to create this like this fantasy in our physical, mental, or sexual realities. Fantasies are oftentimes projections into the future. Visualizations are projections into the future. And where does that fit into this idea of, hey, we need to be in the present in order to communicate well and that sort of thing?
Well, you know what? I came up with a quote, sort of. I hope this sort of summarizes it. Hopes, dreams, and desires without behavior change nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the visualizations that you do don't change anything until you can attach that to a behavior. And the first behavior that I found when I was doing my marriage counseling was quite literally having people talk about their hopes, dreams, and desires to find out from their partner, is that something that they'd like to explore? And when the answer is yes or no, doesn't matter. It creates an openness to discuss more. And that's in the present. So we take from the future or take from the past and their hopes, dreams, and desires for having a better relationship. But if we judge that and hold on to the emotional outcome of the answer, as opposed to taking that as information that we can adjust our behavior in the moment, that's where the fun lies, is making these adjustments, is figuring out how can I find a way to communicate and make some of these hopes, dreams, and desires some form of reality and become resourceful rather than set an expectation to have just what I want, the way I want, when I want. And that, unfortunately, is generally not the way that healthy relationships work. It's very mutual. It's great communication. It plays together. And somebody says, ooh, I like that. And somebody says, I like doing that. Well, let's do more of that. Great. So that actually gets, I call it, it's a really intimate, sexy way of being able to communicate, because you get to find out from your partner and with yourself what you're prepared behaviorally to do. So the seed is our hopes, dreams, and desires, or you can call them visualizations. I have seen a lot of studies on visualizations, done a few myself. And the problem that I have with visualization is when people have no experience on visualizations, the functionality of visualization drops dramatically. There's one that's the whole basketball. Do you know the basketball thing?
If you haven't taken a minute yet to go to wanttowantit.com to get your bonuses, almost $250 worth of free bonuses for pre-ordering my book, I recommend you do that now. We're going to go through so many reasons and so many solutions to fixing low libido for both men and women. It is action-packed with solutions from supplements to diet to lifestyle to lab tests you should talk to your doctor about, to physical routines you can change. So many things designed to help support estrogen and testosterone and circulation and erectile dysfunction, vaginal dryness, so much more. So if you go to wanttowantit.com, you can find that book for pre-order, and you can also then take advantage of the almost $250 worth of bonuses I am giving away for pre-order that will not be available for long. Now let's get back to our episode.
We have two clear ways, probably three, but two clear ways. Number one is just by turning around and getting curious and saying, what does cute mean to you when you're telling me? Please be specific. And initially, when I tried that back in the day, I did not have the skills that I currently have. So, you know, I did that, and she said, well, you're very cute. You're just a cute man. Like, I like cute. Great. That's nice. Internally, that's nice for you. It doesn't do anything for me, but I'm trying to please. And so that didn't have the effect that she was hoping for. Let's put it that way. So now what I would do is I would go, so can you be very specific on what works for you around cute? Well, I like the look at your face. You're sort of ruggedly attractive to me. You've got this look. I like your gray beard. I love your eyes. The way that you look at me when you're into me, I know it. And they go, oh, okay. And then I try and get a smoldering look or get playful and do something like that. And in a silly sort of way, but very specifically, I'm trying to figure out, how do I train myself to be the thing that she's there, and determine whether or not that's a fit for me. I'm trying. It's like clothes. Okay, I have a black t-shirt on. I can go change it. These are all behaviors that I can try on and see if they work for me or not, and see if they work for her or not. And then I can go in and also ask, could you try calling me handsome if you figured this out? And that's what I actually wound up doing with a girlfriend that I had afterwards. And I said, she went to cute. I don't know what it was, but it triggered me. And so I wasn't interested. And I said, do you want to not be interested, or do you want to resolve this? And I said, I want to resolve this. So I knew I'd stumbled across handsome, and I asked her, do you find me handsome? And it was, oh yeah, it was a very enthusiastic answer. I got lucky because she didn't want to call me handsome because she thought I'd have an ego about that. And I go, no, I have never found myself that attractive to women. I have never found myself as a good-looking man. And all of a sudden I got feedback. You're a very good-looking man. And it needed to go on for months, literally, and from multiple sources. Also had another friend who happened to be female. And my girlfriend was talking with my friend who also is a woman, and they were saying, you know what, it's really a shame Blair doesn't see himself as an attractive man. And this is during that phase where I was trying to sort it through. And she went, yeah. And she suggested to my friend to have her tell me that I'm an attractive man. And I had it from two sources, very different sources. And they weren't trying to butter me up, especially the last one, who's just a friend. And I go, whoa, I got to reevaluate myself. And I needed to figure out, what's my story I was telling myself. I have this little boy cute story that I ran in my head, that it wasn't crystal clear, but it was definitely something that I saw myself as, a prepubescent boy being cute. No drive. And I go, okay, that's important, because I'm a man now, and these women never saw me as that child. Now they're seeing me as somebody who is masculine, who is manly, who is, attractive, who looks good in their eyes. And I feel I can become way more self-confident, because self-confidence is me self-identifying my own effective use of skills, attitudes, and behaviors, and especially the behaviors. And then I can align my behaviors with my partner's desires. And OMG.
Yeah, I see the power of this, which is amazing. I think where I still feel a little confused on your methodology, that I'd love you to speak a little bit more, is just being more curious of is there more of a system from a standpoint of oh, you're thinking this, okay, here are the set of questions that people need to ask themselves. Here's kind of more from that understanding of the methodology.
Sure.
Are there a typical set of questions that really that you would recommend people ask themselves, if or people ask their partner?
Sorry, go ahead. I have come up with lists of questions over the years. I have found that they are not as reliable as I would like
Mm-hmm.
because everybody is so unique
Mm-hmm.
and their whole story. And when I came up with questions to ask, some of those questions triggered one or both parties into their past, because I guarantee you, 80% of the people out there have some kind of trauma related to sexual encounters at some point. And that can rise up very, very quickly, completely triggered by questions. And I go, okay, so how can you keep it so that it's most flexible for individuals? Well, what if we just gave them a process model
Mm-hmm.
and saying, if you're curious and you stay away from why based questions and you stick with what and how, and keep your questions as present as possible and directly forward facing. Then all of a sudden, when I did that with my clients back in the day, wow, a forward facing what now? And then I'd have them talk about what's forward facing to you, practice asking some questions. And the biggest challenge that they had was asking questions that actually were curious,
Mm-hmm.
because there's three ways that you can ask a question. You can ask a question to prove, you can ask a question to position, or you can ask a question to build a process with.
Mm-hmm.
I call it the 3 P's of questioning. And the process piece is the only one that requires curiosity at its root.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're curious, everything starts working magically, practically. And I hate that because I'm a behavioral scientist at heart, but I have no other way of describing it, because you put that curiosity in and stuff pops out of people's head that sounds curious, that does not sound, I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm trying to prove it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That helps a lot. Thank you for explaining that. And I think like what I'm gathering that then from like a take home for people is like, and I hear this from a lot of, therapists I talk to and, educators and doctors and clinicians of all type. One of the most common things I see is like start with curiosity. That's like a fundamental, talking to so many different experts, a fundamental thing I hear over and over again. And I think, this process of like what I hear and what you're saying is like, hey, the why is a little bit dangerous because the why takes you away from the present. It takes you down this road of the past, which is innately like we can change a relationship to it, but we can't change it. So what I hear is like really, really focusing on the what and the how questions when you're communicating about cute versus handsome, about what you want to do in bed or whatever it else
Yes.
is really the fundamental. Like if we could focus more on those questions, the communication effectiveness is going to go through the roof.
Bingo.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you for walking me through that. I understand it so much better.
My pleasure.
So then what about one of the things that we talked about offline is what is the question everybody asks that ultimately destroys relationships? And I'm going to guess that it starts with why. Am I correct? So tell me about this question. What is the question that everybody gets asked that actually destroys relationships?
Destroys or restores?
Destroys was what we had talked about.
Okay, about destroys, and that is it. You're absolutely 100% right. Because everybody wants to everybody's been told through pop psychology, through mindset stuff, through everything. And, Simon Sinek's Ask Why. If like there's one way to take that out of our culture, it has wrecked so many things, including I do business, I do relationship coaching, I do executive coaching. And when executives take home, like, what is your big why? I've seen relationships frickin' blow up because a senior executive takes home and tries to use that on his partner, and I get called in to try and resolve it. And fortunately, I've been able to every single time so far. When I'm called in quickly enough, number one. Number two, I'm also able to restore it by getting the person out of their story and into what it is that they want and how they can move forward. So where we are now to where we want to go, because we can't change your past.
Yeah, it's good.
Go
Go ahead.
ahead.
You got.
Well, because, at the end of the day, we all have our past. But the brain, the neuroscience of the brain, the more we practice on building strengths and going towards what we want, the more natural pruning the brain will do on all of that negative stuff, making it smaller and smaller and smaller. And the felt sense that it's a big deal goes to, that you don't forget. Well, sometimes you do, but usually it's reduced to such a minor degree that it's one of the things that you just remembered that happened in your life next. And you have enough retention of that information to not go there again, which is great. Survival is great, but getting into a better life and building success, that's huge. And success in the bedroom, the success with a partner and the intimacy, and being able to take that intimacy out of the bedroom and put it into your day-to-day life just by giving the person I described earlier here just the look. Well, when you're in the kitchen or you're out on a business meeting and your partner's across the room and you can give her or him that look, all the energy changes for you. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you even bringing in the corporate component of this is so it's a point worth bringing up, because I feel like with any business coaching or training that I've done, and I've done a substantial amount of this over the years, one of the common things that comes up is know your why. Like you mentioned,
absolutely,
why is one of the most common questions. So it sounds like you in some ways would, say, it's not about knowing your why, it's about knowing your what.
Well, technically it is your what, but it's your what paired with the how. Because the list of whats, if you know your what, that's good.
Yeah.
But if you can't build behaviors on that what, you're screwed. Pardon my language, but yeah, you're completely screwed.
Yeah.
Because
action.
It requires behavior. As I said, hopes, dreams, and desires are nothing without behaviors.
So then what about the question that you thought I asked, which is, what is the question everybody asks that actually repairs relationships? So is that the what and the how then, or is there something else to add there?
You know what? It is what's and how's, but you've got to be able to ask the question with curiosity, with a process in mind. If you're asking a static question of what did you do, past tense, it's a disguised why.
Yeah.
Okay, that means you're going back to the past. You're forcing that person into justifying why they're doing their thing. So it's not the words who, what, where, when, why, and how. It's the concepts. And that is 4 columns of information in the 6 questions. And that gives you exactly how that person is processing it in their brain. So that's literally, we talked briefly about profiling, language-based profiling. That is the piece that I use for the majority, pairing that with 17 and a half years of research on beliefs and recognizing that beliefs cannot change on an ongoing basis, cannot turn into habits without behaviors. Yeah. So let's just start with making behavior change first. And in Simon Sinek's main thing there, he has this thing called the golden circle. And when he goes in there and talks about why, he immediately gives and let me define why. What it means is this. What it means is this. What it means is this. He uses 3 whats immediately to define the why, though that's just the disguised what. And 3 whys that are disguised what's again. He uses 6 whys. The word that he's trying to define is why, but he's doing it in terms of what's.
Yeah.
And it's messing up people and businesses like nobody's business. And I've been called in to fix companies that have gone through that and they can't seem to figure it out. And that's where I have gone in and straightened them out and helped them get clarity so that they don't have a knowing your big why. And some of the things that I've heard, if your why isn't big enough that it makes you cry, it's not big enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, that's garbage.
Yeah.
That is so garbage. So let's figure out your big what's. Your big, hairy, audacious goals of what you want to achieve. And what if you took your BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, and put that into your relationship?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then had conversations about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So much there. I really appreciate all of this, Blair. I want to make sure as our time is wrapping up here. One, thank you so much for coming on. I think there's so much value in understanding this, and understanding that these simple ways we frame questions can literally make or break relationships. They can make or break our sexuality with our partner, our emotional intimacy, our marriages, our long-term relationships, and more. So I think it's so important. And I know you have a free masterclass that I want to make sure everybody knows about. So people, you can get this additional information for free from you. And how do they find that? And we'll put it in the show notes as well. But if you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Well, it's all about the 3 E's, which is the mind models, the 3 mind models that I used repeatedly with virtually everybody in every situation. But the first mind model is effective versus ineffective. Not good, bad, right, or wrong, because that triggers the brain to go into a judgment. Because as children, we were taught you're a good boy, you're a good girl. You're a bad boy, you're a bad girl. Like all of that good, bad, better, best, all that competitive crap doesn't allow you to evaluate your behavior because everything that you do is you. Well, that's not true. This t-shirt is not me. You may not like it. I can go change it, but it's not me. I can change my behavior. It's not me. It's just a behavior and I can change it. And all of a sudden, when I introduce that into effective versus ineffective, people go, wow, what if I asked my partner, what might I do more effectively? Or what am I doing that's ineffective? And ask them to just name and label it. Not go into a story. Just tell me what it is. And then let me explore how I can adjust that behavior. Great. Okay, so is that now, when you explore it, is that now externally verifiable, which is the second of the 3 E's, externally versus internally verifiable? Because if it's internally verifiable, you're going to just take that in and go, yeah, it's me. I'm a piece of crap here. It doesn't work well, yada, yada. And you just beat the crap out of yourself. Or you hold it as, hey, this is externally verifiable. This is a behavior I can actually change. And I can actually test something to see if my partner likes what I'm doing and get feedback on, is that better or worse? And sure enough, you'll drop the stuff that's not working for them and do what is working for them. And that just makes you a better lover. Okay. And then finally is evaluation versus judgment. All the crap that we do about self-recrimination and judging, oh, I'm not a very good lover, and my partner doesn't think I'm a very good lover, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, well, want to change that forever? Literally, forever. Start evaluating and look at it as an incremental improvement. And if you made one small improvement every day, a year later, you've made 352 improvements. Hello, you're going to be great at whatever it is that you need to do. So there's a hour and 20-minute masterclass in there as well.
Amazing.
So that's all in the free gift.
Awesome. I love that so much. And so everybody, we're going to have that link to the masterclass on these 3 E's. So much more, how to get a hold of, how to work with Blair, all in the show notes. So just look for that there. And that makes it a wrap for today. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much, Blair, for all of this wisdom and knowledge. It's deeply appreciated. And I will see you all very soon on another episode of The Lounge. Ciao for now. Thank you for listening to the Libido Lounge. Please don't keep me a secret. Please share this with your friends. You can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, as well as how to work with me at mylibidodoc.com.